Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be making my NFL playoff predictions. But before we get into it, subscribe to the channel, make sure it gets to 250, because when it does, I'll be doing a stream bringing on anybody that wants to talk about their football takes. And also leave a comment down below, who do you think is winning the Super Bowl, and who do you think is going to make it there from both sides, AFC and NFC. So let's get right into it. First, we are going to start off with the NFC, where the 2 vs 7 matchup is between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. This game is on Sunday at 4:25, and it will take place between an 11-6 Packers team and a 14-3 Eagles team. These teams met in Week 1, where the Eagles won in Brazil, where the field wasn't that great, so this time on a great field, we're going to see these two teams collide. The Packers come into the postseason on a 2-game losing streak, losing to the Vikings and Bears in games where they just did not look that good for most of the game, where the Eagles come off a game where they sat their starters and clinched their division in week 17. The X factor for the Eagles is obviously Saquon Barkley. He had over 2,000 rushing yards this season, and he has led that Eagles offense to great play. They also need consistent play out of Jalen Hurts in the passing game. There's a couple games where he didn't play so well, and there's a couple games where he's out of this world. A.J. Brown is also helping, and their defense was the number 1 defense in the league this year. So very tough task for the Packers to go on the road and win. How can the Packers win? Well, they have another running back in his first year with the team, like the Eagles. They have Josh Jacobs on their team, and he has been really good. He ends the season on an 8-game rushing touchdown streak, as well as their defense has great players like Xavier McKinney, who had 8 interceptions. So who am I going to take to win this one? I'm going to take Philadelphia. I think they're the better team defensively, and the Packers' offense is, I think the way they've been playing is going to be easy to shut down. So give me Philadelphia to beat Green Bay in round 1. This matchup is between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. And these are two teams that many people thought they weren't going to do what they did this season, and both these teams, I think, surpass expectations. Tampa Bay wins 10 games this season and win the NFC South. It took till Week 18, but they got it done. For them, Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard season, as well as Baker Mayfield's been playing even better this season after taking a step up last season. So that offense is looking really good. They have a 3-headed rushing attack with Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, and Sean Tucker. They're going to put up a lot of points on the board. Defensively, they're not as great, but if their offense could play the way they've played over the last couple weeks, defense might not be a concern because they score so much. For Washington, their offense has been playing amazing. Terry McLaurin had a career year, and Jaden Daniels is the breakout superstar that these Commanders have been waiting for the last couple of years. So he takes them back to the playoffs, and they're on the road in Tampa on Sunday night. Who am I going to take in this one? I am going to take the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders have what it takes to get done. Jaden Daniels has just been so clutch. I think he's built for the playoffs, and I think their defense, if they get Marshawn Lattimore back, if they get consistent play out of that secondary, I think they win this game, and I'm going to take Washington to upset Tampa in Tampa. Next up, I have the final matchup of the NFC wildcard round, and it contains the LA Rams hosting the Minnesota Vikings. The LA Rams clinched the NFC West in Week 17, so they did not have to play their starters in Week 18. They lost, but they had 10-7, while the Minnesota Vikings lost in that win to get the 1-seed match on Sunday night, and now fall to the 5-seed at 14-3, which is crazy. The LA Rams, they are a very good offensive football team. Their offense is stacked. They have Matthew Stafford. He's been there, done that in the playoffs. He's won a Super Bowl. You have Kyron Williams, who's put up great numbers across the first years of his career. And you have that 2-headed demon at wide receiver in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. This defense, they've been great, but they're just inconsistent. They had a really good set of games to end the year, and their defense, when all their starters played, is on a roll. For Minnesota, you have Sam Darnold, career resurgence, career year. He's having the best year for himself that he's had. And you have Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. He's having another incredible season. You have Jordan Addison, who's a great wide receiver too for that team. And you have Aaron Jones, who can run the football, and he's had that playoff experience in his years with the Packers. So what's going to make the difference in this game? I haven't mentioned it yet. It's the Minnesota defense. They were top 3 in the league, and although they just played not so great of a game against the Lions, I think they're going to pick it back up and stop this Rams offense. And Minnesota is going to go in LA and win. And Minnesota is going to advance to the divisional round in what I think is going to be a great matchup on Monday night, and one that I'm looking most forward to. Now on to the AFC wildcard, beginning with that 2-7 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. The Buffalo Bills won 13 games this season, and they have the MVP frontrunner, in my opinion, in Josh Allen. He had an incredible year, and you also have a bunch of receivers that can catch the football. You have James Cook, who is a very reliable running back, and that leads to a top 3 offense in the NFL in the Buffalo offense. Buffalo's defense has been very inconsistent, though, and they're going to need to see 4 great games out of that defense for Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. But there's definitely the pieces for Buffalo to do so. On the other side, you have Denver. They just broke a 9-year playoff drought led by quarterback Bo Nix. He had an incredible game in Week 18 to put them into the playoffs. You have Cortland Sutton, who's having a great year. But the big story about Denver is their defense. Their defense is playing out of their mind this year, another top 5, top 7 unit in the league. And that's how Denver has won a bunch of football games. But I think that Buffalo's offense is too talented for Denver to stop. And I think Josh Allen has a great game and puts the Bills in the divisional round and puts them on track to maybe meet Kansas City, but we'll get to that later. Next up is the Baltimore Ravens at home against their division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And these teams have met twice this season. Baltimore won the second matchup. Pittsburgh won the first. So this will be a tie-breaking game between them for the season. But Baltimore, another MVP frontrunner guy in Lamar Jackson. He's playing great this year, and he showed it in Week 18 to lock up the division against Cleveland. Derrick Henry having another great year. His first year in Baltimore has been one of his best, and he's really added to this Baltimore offense. You also have Pro Bowl wide receiver Zay Flowers, and this is a very good offense that also has Mark Andrews as well. So lots of weapons for Lamar to work with. Pittsburgh's offense is kind of falling off these last couple of games. They've lost 4 in a row to end the season, and a big part of it's been that offense. George Pickens in specific, he dropped the ball 3 times in their Week 18 loss to the Bengals, and their quarterback, Russell Wilson, has not been playing that great. Their rushing attack had a solid game in Week 18, and I think that's going to be what Pittsburgh's going to need to establish to win the game. Baltimore's defense, they've shown that they're a great defense, and I think that's going to be the difference because I don't know if Pittsburgh can score the points necessary against a good Baltimore defense to stay with what Baltimore's offense is going to do against a good Pittsburgh defense, but I don't think Pittsburgh is going to do enough stopping to win the game considering the way their offense plays. So give me Baltimore to advance to the divisional. And the final wild card matchup I'll get into is Houston versus LA. And this is an interesting matchup for sure. It is opening up the playoffs on Saturday at 4. And you have CJ Stroud, back-to-back AFC South champion Houston Texans. And then you have Justin Herbert on the other side. And he gets back to the playoffs looking for his first playoff win. Houston, they've been falling off these last couple of games just like the Steelers. They've lost a lot of pieces at wide receiver. Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell are both done for the year, but Nico Collins helps carry that wide receiving core. And you also have Joe Mixon, who is a great and reliable running back that will get you a ton of yards per game. Houston's defense can be a bit better, but at times they've been really, really good this season. And that's what Houston's going to need to have in order to go on a surprising run. For LA, their offense has been great this year. I didn't expect it, but they've been great. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards at running back have helped this rushing attack greatly. And then you have Ladd McConkey, who's been just a star for the Chargers this season. The Chargers defense has also been incredible. And you have pieces like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack that are there that help this team establish great defensive football. And I think that this defense is going to stop this Houston offense. I think LA and Justin Herbert, he'll get his first playoff win and advance to the divisional round. And this is what my divisional round would look like. And let's get into the matchups. Starting on the NFC side, you have the Detroit Lions at the 1 seed taking on the Washington Commanders in the divisional round. And this game would be really interesting. You have the Detroit Lions. I'll get to them right now. They are one of the best teams in football. They proved it in Week 18. They absolutely destroyed the Minnesota Vikings to earn that 1 seed, and they'll get a much-needed week of rest before the playoffs. Their offense, one of the best offenses ever. They scored 68 touchdowns this season, and that was largely in part to Jared Goff giving the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, but also throwing it to guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and a really talented wide receiver tight end core. Also mentioned Sam Laporta. He's a great tight end, and this Lions offense is their key to winning. Their defense has been weak at times, but when the Lions defense needs to step up, they do, and they've proven it this whole season. And I mentioned the Washington team. This is an upstart Washington team, but I think they're going to put up a key challenge here to the Lions that the Lions might need in order to pick up the momentum after a bye week to go on a Super Bowl run. And I think Detroit's going to take this game. I think they're the better football team. I think Jaden Daniels is going to make this game very competitive, but the Lions are just going to squeeze it out just because their offense is so good. And give me the Lions to advance to the NFC Championship for the second year in a row. Now, let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. 28 wins between these two teams, both having 14 wins this season, and this is going to be a matchup for the ages if they meet at any point in the playoffs. Philadelphia, obviously, that really talented offense, that top defense is what's making them so good, and you have another great defense and another great offense on the other side in Minnesota. So this game could either be a high-scoring shootout or it might be a low-scoring game. That's why this matchup would be so great to see. And in this game, I'm going to take Philadelphia. I think they're going to get the run game going if they play the Vikings. I think Saquon's going to run for a ton of yards, and they'll get it going through the air. And I don't know if Minnesota's offense would have enough to compete with that. So give me the Philadelphia Eagles to advance to play the Lions in the NFC Championship. We have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on a division rival in the Los Angeles Chargers. And this will be another interesting game. It was close both times they played. And the Chiefs, we know what they are. They're back-to-back champions. Patrick Mahomes, he just steps it up in the playoffs. You have Isaiah Pacheco. You have DeAndre Hopkins, who's new to the team, but has filled in greatly. You have Travis Kelce, who always steps it up this time of year as well as a defense that's really been playing super well this year and kind of been the Chiefs' leading thing for them. When it's usually that offense, it's been the defense this year, and they got 15 wins. We don't talk about that game in Week 18 because they didn't play many starters. I don't care that they lost 38-0. The Chiefs are just the better football team between them and the Chargers. And give me the Kansas City Chiefs to go on and beat the Los Angeles Chargers and advance to the AFC Championship. Now another great divisional matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. And the Bills have been one of the best teams offensively the whole year, and the Ravens have been as well. These two teams have the two MVP frontrunners. I wonder who's going to win. It's a shame that this game won't be able to decide it because it's on regular season stats, but either way, you're going to see great quarterback play if these two teams play in the divisional round. The key for both these teams is just how their defense can play. And I'm more heading towards a Baltimore defensive game and for them to succeed than Buffalo's succeeding because of their defense. And give me Baltimore to advance to the AFC Championship. I was going back and forth on this game. I originally had Buffalo, but now I have Baltimore. And give me Baltimore to play Kansas City for the second year in a row. And this would be my championship weekend. Two high-powered matchups, and let's get up into them. Now, getting into the NFC Championship, we have the Lions and the Eagles, and this would be a matchup that I really want to see. Two of the most talented teams in football this year fighting for a spot in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. So, who can win this game? It's really tough, but I'm going to go with Philadelphia. Here's why. I think Philadelphia's defense is very, very good, and I think they're going to stop this one of the best offenses of all time in the Detroit Lions, where I think the Eagles are going to score on this Lions defense enough to outpace that Lions offensive scoring. And I think that's what's going to do it. I like the pieces that Philadelphia has a bit more than the pieces the Lions have. And I think Philadelphia goes back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 2 years. Now a rematch of last season, the Chiefs and the Ravens. This time it's in Kansas City. Last year it was in Baltimore. And this would be a very exciting matchup. You have two great quarterbacks that have played each other in this spot before. I just said it last year, and I think Lamar Jackson gets his revenge. I think the Ravens have just been on one these last couple weeks. The Ravens are heading into the playoffs the right way, and I think the Ravens have the pieces. I think Derrick Henry was that last piece they needed to put themselves over the Chiefs in this situation, and give me Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl to play Philadelphia in New Orleans. Here it is. I think Super Bowl 59 contains the Philadelphia Eagles, led by Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, against the Baltimore Ravens, led by Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers. And this is going to be an exciting matchup. Philadelphia with a great defense and a great offense against a Baltimore offense that looks incredible and also has a great defense, and they showed it in recent years. So who am I going to take here? I think that the Philadelphia Eagles come on top and win the Super Bowl. I think they have what it takes. I think their offense is very, very good. I think their defense is very, very good. And I think this is the year for Philadelphia. They win their second Super Bowl in franchise history and write names in the history books.